How many minutes do you want?
Uh, you have
Okay.
us. I think you do the starting, and they might have a question and answers from Neji and Gerald and Jerry. You also prepared to say something?
Yeah, I would like about 10 minutes.
Okay, so we have enough time. No worry. Just go ahead.
Okay. Let's see if I can share the right screen here. There we go. Is this all working?
Coming. Yeah, my approach.
Okay. Yeah, this is the way I work with a meta theory, and the way I develop it is by analyzing various theories and seeing how they fit, and then making allowances and balancing and adjusting to see what I discover.
What
So,
does all that mean in English?
in English, okay, let's see if this
He's
Je ne
joking.
comprends pas, je ne parle pas un mot d'anglais. Okay, whenever encountering some theory, I analyze it using my cognitive model. And that's how I test my cognitive model. I ask, can this model explain this new system or book or theory? So that's the approach I take with this as well. Um, I read through the handout that was sent, and I noted some points, and I thought I'd do something different this time. I uploaded it to ChatGPT and said, use the theory of mental symmetry to analyze, which is my model. And I found that there's enough now in ChatGPT, enough knowledge of my model that it works. And then I also noted some points and I asked ChatGPT to expand on them. ChatGPT did pretty good on some points. Other ones I had to add. And what I did, I wasn't, because I had fairly limited information to work with, I thought it would be most useful to look at the points in the CPV model and ask how would I define those, and then that would lead to discussion as to how should one define those points. So it's a possible starting point. And so, okay, if it's in blue, it's GPT. If it's in green, it's me.
Oh, God.
No, no, no. I'm not spewing Chat GPT. This is my analysis, and GPT is the student. I'm the teacher.
Good, good, good.
Yes, this is no, 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 no. That's how I treat AI. It's the student. I'm the teacher. Okay, so let's look at I think there are seven different points here, which are the formula, which are multiplied together to get the formula. The first one is integrity. Okay, now how it is defined in the model is okay. Degree, the one in brackets is the definition from, was it Tenzi?
Magic. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. It's his definition. So, degree of internal logic coherence within a cognitive system. So, the way I interpret that is there's internal coherence and there's factual correspondence. So, it fits together and it relates to reality. So, that's how I would interpret integrity. I don't, okay. Mirroring, how he defines it is ability to remain stable across other perspectives or contexts. I interpret that as consistent across context. So if you go from one context to another, you see the same pattern. You see the same principle. You see the same structure. You can translate it from one language to another, and the concepts remain. And
Can I,
another important thing is it applies to itself.
can I interject a bit something here that I think is pretty critical?
Please.
Yeah. This question of mirroring across context, if, as you define it here, it seems to me is in direct contradiction to the notion of different scientific notations for the same phenomena. Direct contradiction with the notion of different scientific notations for phenomena, for the same phenomena.
That's okay. Wait, that's exactly what I'm seeing as mirroring. That you can change the vocabulary to another vocabulary, another specialization, and the concepts still survive.
That's not how a mirror works.
Okay? You tell me how a mirror works.
Look in the mirror and what do you see?
I see a reflection.
No, you see your identity.
No.
No, it is being processed. And it's
Okay, let's keep the difference. Keep the
Okay.
difference going on.
okay. See, this isn't that's why I'm doing this exactly to uncover these sorts of points because this sort of because I think this is okay. Next one, closure. The way it's defined is loop of thought goes to action, to feedback, to validation. What I'm interpreting that is it goes from internal model or it starts as a theory in somebody's head. It turns into a plan. That plan is executed. That execution leads to results. Those results are then honestly evaluated, which then goes back to the theoretical, which adjusts the theory. So it's this that's the way I would interpret that closure loop. Universality. The way it's defined is capacity to transcend self-interest and reach civilization resonance. Hey, the way I'm interpreting that is it goes beyond specific people, specific cultures, specific experiences, specific narratives to universal principles, general laws. It goes from the specific, concrete to the abstract, general. Ethical anchoring. The way it says is accountability of thought structure toward reality and others. Okay, the way I would interpret that is you have an internal model that matches how either the world works or how the mind functions. So there's that's where the accountability comes between the internal model and the actual reality. Now, do you want to stop at this point and any comments?
Uh, I think the issues here are going to be the issues of how many other terms could you add to this and still maintain a coherent formula? In other words, is it 3 or 5 or 7 or and I'm thinking here, Lorin, in the sense that you're treating these semantic collections as some sort of axioms that you will use then and use for future inferences and deferences and transferences and other forms of inversions of meaning.
Yes, I am trying to look at more general meanings. That is how I work and connect it with more general meanings. But it is also, this is the CPV formula, which is generalizing and saying, hey, these are critical features. I don't know, this is not my model, so I don't know if these are perpendicular, separate dimensions or not. I don't know if they're complete or not. I'm just trying to understand them because that is how I understand some system. I have to map it into language that I can comprehend.
That part I understand quite. In that, I think there's a certain sense of beauty I see in these 5 terms. And I like the quality of the work that you're presenting in this format, in this context, with respect to language. My question, though, which you did not directly address, and which I would think is very critical for your future developments, is this a complete set of 5, or can you make it 6, 7, 8, 9, 47,
I
2001?
I agree. I agree that's a good question. And it's not my, if it were my model, I would address that question. But I am not I'm trying to work with somebody else's model and try to comprehend it. And yes, I like the dimensions too. I think there's something there. Whether it's complete, I don't know.
Okay, who's the perpetrator of this CPV formula?
90 yuan.
Yes,
90.
I was
Hey,
handed
it's
a
you.
document and told, analyze this.
Okay, now I got it. Now I got it. Okay,
Okay, this is not
You
my. Now
forgot.
I am putting my meanings on it by using my model to try to interpret it, but this is
okay,
not my model.
I got it.
Okay, complete. Please continue. Waiting for the
But
later.
I agree with you. I think there is something here. Okay. Positioning stability. Okay, so now the model generator defines this as stability of cognitive coordinates across multi-contextual fields. I would interpret this as a meta theory because you've got cognitive coordinates. Okay, so you've got some map across multi-contextual fields. Now you got a theory about theories. And that, in my definition, is a meta theory. Temporal coherence, it's defined as long-term consistency and historical continuity. And I think that's an important one. I would interpret that as recognizing the historical and personal past. Okay, so it's not like I go into a monastery and I forget that I used to be a person. This is this new theory. This is my new life. No, you don't do that. Or it's like modern science that tries to pretend it didn't come from Western Christendom. Okay, it doesn't do that. There's this historical awareness. Hey, we came from here and we went to there. Um, okay, that's slide number 2. Comments? Questions? At least we know what we're talking about now. That's
Well,
why I thought that somebody else would be talking about the model and I would be responding. That's why I'm kind of confused why I'm the first one on.
oh, okay. So, but how can I phrase this? I it really would require a lot of inversions, I guess would be the word I would use, to move from these terms to the history of Western Christendom and the development of axiomatic systems.
Okay, how would you interpret the phrase historical continuity?
Well, there is no such thing as historical continuity. There's just constant change and developments. And when something emerges, that is a discontinuity from history.
Okay, but I come from a Mennonite background. I don't come from a Chinese background. I am born in Canada, not China. There is a distinction.
I'm thinking that we probably can bring Wittgenstein here, or two Wittgensteins. I mean, the former Wittgenstein and the later Wittgenstein. And currently, this slides with the key concepts, searching for the clear definitions consistent with the former Wittgenstein, right? We have to focus on the exact, clear definition of our terms and their correspondence to the objective world. I mean, the mind must be one-to-one exactly map that objective world. Even most of these terms are highly abstract concepts already. You don't mirror. You can have a mirror, but integrity. Can you show me some integrity like an apple? No. And closure, you can imagine a closure loop, a snake biting its tails. But for universality and ethical anchoring, etc., it's highly relied on language. So that's pretty much a former Wittgenstein. But later we all know that Wittgenstein overthrew himself by realizing that okay, shut up. There are a lot of things that we cannot talk about. So we need to look at the utility function of what we are talking about and focus on whether or not it helps us to survive. So later we may ask Nietzsche if this whole field of theory helped his own survival or progress of career or that sort of dimension. But for now, I think let's hold our intention to debate. Let's finish Lorin's analysis and let's hear from Nietzsche what he would like to respond. How about that?
Okay. Blue, this one is GPT. I thought it did pretty good. So I'll just talk through it. Um, its comment when I asked it to look at the hierarchical levels, as it says, hey, that maps almost perfectly onto mental symmetry. It's my models, developmental progression, the path from childish identity to mature thought. So that's the mapping that GPT made on these levels. It interpreted them as levels of cognitive and societal development, connecting them. And I think they make sense. Okay, let's look at this. Because I made so there's the believer. Okay, the levels on the left, those are not my labels. The MS equivalent, that's what GPT said, hey, we're using my model language and then explaining it in the right. So the believer uses some external authority who says, this is truth, now believe it. Okay, that's your first stage. Second, pragmatist says, I am doing things. I don't understand. I'm just following instructions. I'm just doing in the real world. The explorer then says, let's think about this. Let's get some facts. Then the constructor says, oh, we've got facts. Let's put that together in a theory. The awakener then says, oh, theory. That has implications. Let's think about that. Then the civilization builder says, I have an internal model. There's reality. Let's use my internal model to try to change reality and see what the result is. And then the controller, now you've got a full awareness of, we have the models of civilization and we have actual civilizations, and they're interacting between the two. Okay, so that's how I would approach it. And this is a direct quote from what ChatGPT spit out. And I thought, man, it's pretty good. Comments or next slide?
Lorin, have you familiar? I mean, you familiar with the Edward de Bono's Six Thinking Hats?
I think I've encountered it. I don't have them off the top of my head.
Okay, we in our training program we consolidate. We changed the format of that six different colors of caps.
Okay.
Very similar to what you put on these levels here, but there's only six, not seven. We converted that into a six direction thinking, namely left and right, forward and back, and up and down. So, so use that model to guide our students to navigate around the different directions. That's just something we can follow up
Right.
because
I'm
that
guessing.
was very influential in the corporate training world.
Uh, Jason,
This Robert is strange. I'm just doing this, and he got my hand away.
uh, Jason, do you have a systematic method for attaching semantics to the six directions?
Yes, we do. I will let you know later. That's in
Okay.
our training program. We had a very simple framework for the student to learn 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 10. And the six is this six-dimensional thinking. Six-dimensional. So we guide the facilitator needs to guide the students to move. Now let's look at the left. And let's look at the right, front, back, risks, and creativities, and exploring things, and the total control, and the ground. So we had a structure very similar to what Lauren's talking about here.
Yeah, again, it's not my structure, but this is how I would interpret it, and
Mhm.
interpreting it this way, I see something there. And what
Maybe it's a universal thing.
Yeah, exactly. And that's an example for me of mirroring.
Uh-huh.
Um,
So mirroring can be also changed to mapping, right?
Fair enough. Yes, that would be probably a better term.
Mm.
Okay, here's first problem I have with this model. And that is, where are we? I'll get my there. I think it's missing the dimension between internal and external. Or Myers-Briggs, it's the introverted, extroverted, that dimension. And so I asked GPT about that, and okay, its response was, okay, forget the pop psych version. Let's look at what does it really mean, introverted, extroverted, cognitively. So, and this is, again, it's using my model the way I would approach it. So it's saying there's your introverted approach where you're starting from the inside. You're looking for internal coherence. You're trying to get internal stability. You're thinking before you're acting. You're trying to get an identity inside before you're expressing it externally. So that's the one direction. It builds from the inside out. The other direction, you're going from the outside in. So it's the social mirroring. It's the idea of my mind is a reflection of my social environment. I'm I'm getting my mind from environmental feedback. I'm doing and then I'm thinking. I'm getting my identity from how I'm interacting with other people. Okay, these are two directions. And I think that axis or that dimension is missing. So ChatGPT said two different developmental engines. You need them both to climb the ladder. And so my comment that I add is, hey, whenever you have a control system, you have reality and you have a model of reality. Those are two separate things, but they interact. Okay, now applying that to the model, to these categories, again, blue, chat, GPT, what it added is, hey, if you look at these seven levels, you see a different emphasis of going internal to external or external to internal. So, believer and pragmatist, that is the internal responding to the external. So the external is driving it. So the believer, somebody else tells me what to believe. The pragmatist, someone else tells me what to do, or the environment tells me what to do. So now but that starts to flip now with the explorer and the constructor, because the explorer is saying, let me think and try to find out facts about what's happening externally. The constructor is then saying, I will internally construct an understanding of what is happening externally. The awakener says, oh, I got this model internally. Now let's try to get an external reflection of that. Even stronger with a civilizational builder, you're building this civilization guided highly by your ideas of civilization, either individuals or groups or whatever. And then the final stage, you've got this research and development linking between the two. Okay, so that's what, early levels are external dominant, middle levels are internal dominant, the final levels, you require interaction between the model and reality. Okay, so that's one dimension that I would add, and this is how ChatGPT expanded on that extra dimension. Comments? Okay,
Fascinating that AI
right?
can understand this kind of analysis. It's still a mystery to me.
What? I didn't
I say sometimes it's fancy that the AI can seemingly understand. Or is that really understanding, or it's just some kind of a statistical forecast?
Yeah.
That's a question.
I wouldn't count it as real understanding, but I would count it as a reasonably good simulation of understanding.
Simulation. Okay, fair enough.
That's why I'm the teacher and it's the student. I evaluate it. But I was curious instead of doing all the work myself. And, let's see. And I didn't really think what was original is I noticed the distinction between internal and external, and I prompted that into the AI. But it didn't notice that by itself. But what I did not notice, and it noticed, is this idea of the stages where it starts with the external, goes to the internal, and then goes to both integrated. That was an AI idea. So,
Mm.
Mm.
okay, the second problem, and this is this, we're yeah, this is the second problem that I found with the model is there seems to be an ethical confusion in it, at least in the notes that I found. Okay, so quotes here. CPV does not measure intelligence or morality. It's not a subfield of psychology, sociology, or ethics. So those are the quotes from the paper at the beginning. But point number six, it's not an abstract theory, but an ethically verifiable structure system. It's a civilization level contract that measures closure and ethical universality. So did ethics just slip in the back door? And that
Please go on.
okay, notice this is green. I'm finding this. I noticed this, not ChatGPT. And so then I asked ChatGPT to expand that using my model. And I have thought about this a lot in terms of morality. And so it gave this response based upon my model. And you have to look at ethics two ways, or there are two ways. The normal way is to see ethics this way in terms of imposed moral standards. And I think science is trying to emerge from that and doesn't want to get caught into that. So you have moral ethics, which, CPV as a regular scientific theory would reject. Now, these are not my words. This is ChatGPT. So you have good versus evil, virtue, here are the standards. Ooh, you're bad. Don't go there. And so see, it appears that CPV, when it's saying it's not a moral system, it's trying to say, no, we're not going there. Okay, now the way I look at morality using my model and how you could interpret the expressions to morality is it's a structural ethics. So the ethics, it's actually a functional ethic, functional morality. So the question is not, are you doing it right or wrong? It's, is the model functioning adequately? Is your mind functioning adequately? Is the world functioning adequately? Is it pathological or is it healthy? Yeah. So there's an accountability to reality. So are you in your escapist world or not? That's a functional ethics. Your alignment between your model and reality. How's your control system going? Avoidance of self-referential is illusion. Okay, that's its words. I think for me, the big thing is, can a model apply to itself? Or can what the researcher's discovering, does that also apply to the researcher himself? In other words, does the researcher realize that he also has a mind?
Hmm.
And responsibility for the effects of one structure. So not just coming up with these wonderful structures, applying them, and then you don't care what happens. Okay, is the whole loop working? It's a functional morality. And so this is ChatGPT concluding, that's that would be a possible definition. That's the definition I use in my model. It's a control system definition. And I think that that sort of morality, if you approach it that way, that resolves the ethics coming in the back door, because that seems to always happen. Ethics always comes in the back door. And when it comes in that way, it ends up being an implicit ethics you can't really talk about. So if it's going to come in the back door, let's bring it in the front door and discuss it in a way that one can discuss functionally. Okay, end.
Okay, Neji, what do you say?
Okay. I think about integrity, I think Lori's interpretation of integrity is very accurate. What you described, internal model coherence combined with fractal correspondence, is exactly what CPV means by structure and integrity. In CPV, integrity is not about correctness of beliefs, but about whether a cognitive system collapses when its assumptions are made explicit. About mirroring, what I really appreciate in Laurie's explanation of mirroring is the emphasis on stability across perspectives. In CPV, mirroring is a strict test. If a structure only works in its native context, it is not robust. Translation across contexts is not optional, it is the test itself. About closure, Laurie's description of closure as serial plan execution results evaluation serial matches the CPV exactly. Closure is what separates symbolic cognition from living cognitive systems. Without closure, cognition becomes static, and static systems always fail under environmental change. About universality, I also agree with Laurie's interpretation of universality as movement from the concrete to the abstract, from specific narratives to general principles. In CPV, universality is not abstraction for its own sake. It is the capacity of a structure to survive outside the identity and interest of its creator. What I want to emphasize is Laurie's interpretation shows that CPV is legible within existing system theory, but CPV itself is not merely a descriptive framework. It is a structured diagnostic tool. It tells us when a cognitive system is stable and when it is entering collapse or illusion. Okay, that's what I want to say.
Lorin also asked you two directions of confusing or missing elements. One is that psychologically introvert versus extrovert differences, and yeah, that's one I remembered. The
I'm
other
sharing the
one,
slides just so to clarify.
yeah, this one, and also Larry asked you about that ethical issues in the whole scenario of cognition. Looks like not so clear to us.
That's a very fair question, and I want to address it directly. Ethics does not enter CPV as a moral judgment. It enters as a structural constraint. CPV does not evaluate whether a cognition is good or bad. It evaluates whether a cognitive structure can remain stable while being accountable to reality and to others affected by its actions. Any system that produces actions but denies responsibility will eventually lose closure and collapse structurally. So ethics did not slip in through the back door. Ethics is the boundary condition that prevents meaning from drifting away from consequence. In CPV, ethics functions exactly like conservation laws in physicals. It does not prescribe values, but it constrains what kinds of structures can survive over time. That is why CPV is not an ethical theory. It is ethically variable. Ethics is CPV. Ethics in CPV is not a value system. It is a stability condition. Okay.
Ability.
Gary? Or Gerald, you want to say something?
Well, the original question I still have is, to what extent is there a fact, if you're talking about factual conditions, correspondence, somehow there is one preferred type of description of reality. And I wonder how such a preferred description of reality comes about. How do we know that it's preferred? The fact that we agree on something, I mean, this is a cup of coffee, and you agree it's a cup of coffee. Is that, yes? I mean, both. Is that a fact? I'm not sure that that is what you mean.
Okay, I have a
So in
definition.
essence, there are 6 or 7 criteria, but the criteria are all from the same type of cognitive world. They are not from the model itself. They are from a different model.
Okay, from my model, I define fact as a set of connections that continues to be repeated in many different contexts. And so one can look for this repetition either in the external world, which is the scientific approach, and I also look for that repetition in cognitive mechanisms by looking for similar behavior and response in different fields. That's my definition.
But Lorin,
But
Gerard's
it's
question.
not
Go ahead, Gerard.
clear to me because that implies that there is a critical dependence on observation.
Yeah. If I don't observe in some way, either and honesty, if I don't observe in some way externally or internally, I get my model will get disconnected from what it's supposedly modeling.
Yes, but there are many different ways that there can be a correspondence.
Fair.
So
At least if I'm
Um,
looking for correspondence, whereas I know some politicians these days that don't care about correspondence.
no, I agree. And but of course, if you do research, you do care about correspondence, but it's not always possible to identify whether the correspondence is with that which we as observers agree about, or that it is with something where a number of observers have managed to agree about.
I fully agree with that distinction. I hear
Okay,
what you're saying.
But
okay.
And that's why I'm also trying to anchor the opinions to go beyond
Yeah.
that opinion to say, are there cognitive mechanisms that would naturally cause a distortion to explain why these people are convincing themselves that they know truth when it doesn't really correspond?
but I think Gerard's question goes deeper in the following sense. That is, your response focuses on the nature of the connections that you can construct for yourself from your views about your models.
Mm,
So connectivity, the notion of logical connectivity between terms of propositions seems to ground your argument. Well, Gerard's question is more basically, where are these terms coming from? What was the origin of
mm,
these terms such that blah, 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 so that without the original sense of terms, propositional terms in a logical sense, or in a semantic sense, either way, uh, you have nothing to connect. And so you find I can draw a mental picture in my mind of all the possible ways to connect, say, a mathematical group or whatever. But if I don't have what is being connected, where am I?
Jerry, when you say terms, are you referring to the 7 categories?
I'm referring exactly to the notion of of a sentence as having a subject and something and a verb, and it may have a predicate or another subject, or it may have noun phrases, verb phrases, other parts. But the point is that you need a subject. If I want to use a grammatical sense in response to your question, Robert, I need a term. And in the medieval times, the notion of terminals of the sentence, the beginning and the end of the sentence, were the terminals of the sentence. And well, and when my time comes, I will mention that more deeply now because it becomes crucial here in the sense of what's being discussed.
Okay,
Wait,
I would say that there are
excuse,
two.
excuse me. I want to ask Gerard the same question. Uh, who mentioned the 7 uh, types?
mm.
Um, is it? I'm trying to grasp whether it is a concern to you, the question, where do these 7 types come from, or what?
Well, I'm less concerned about where do they come from, but to what extent are they independent of what it is you want to achieve? For example, if you take a criterion like falsifiability, it came up in the work of Popper suddenly. But you can explain it. You can explain the necessity from an internal model where you hypothesize a set, and the membership of the set can be falsified. So falsifiability is actually a criterion that is implicit in the notion of a theory.
I
And
understand. It
okay,
actually, what you're saying and what Jerry's saying go together. Is that there's no predicate. What I think that if to try to synthesize the objections or the questions, which seem to me to be accurate so far, unless
uh,
Lorin will have more, is that Lorin, you have a typology, which is fine, and it came from somewhere, and I know where it came from, and that's okay too. But Like, so what? What happens with it? What happens with it? Where does it go? What is it used for? In order to create knowledge, in order to train human beings? Why? Why is it? Why did you do this?
I have the same question to Neji, like Robert. But let's hear from Jerry's 10 minutes talk before we all jump in to the finals episode.
Yeah, I have a question totally unrelated, back to what I thought was going to be the topic of this session, which was analyzing Nagy's model. Um, there's the CPV formula with its 7 things of integrity, mirror, closure, universality, and then there are the hierarchy, the levels, the L1 through L7. How do those two how do those two relate? That's my question.
Neji?
Okay. I want to answer the former question, how the 7 dimensions come from. There we derived by asking a single struct question. What are the minimum conditions required for a cognitive system to remain stable across multiple agents? Time, each dimension corresponds to a distinct model of structural collapse. Integrity prevents internal contradiction. Mirroring prevents cross-context collapse. Closure prevents disconnection from reality. Universality prevents civilizational isolation. Ethical anchoring prevents stable illusion. Positioning stability prevents loss of orientation. Temporal coherence prevents historic inconsistency. Together, they form a minimal completeness set. That's my answer.
Okay, but how does that relate to that? How do those two relate together?
The level is the CPV, is the development of the CPV.
So do you have 7 levels of each of these? So integrity could go from level 1 to level 7, or how does that work?
No, it's not from 1 to 7. It's uh, mm, how to explain? It's more and more, more and more.
Yeah, it's just if you have 2 different dimensions in a single model, they have to be related in some way.
Uh,
I think he wants to say it's a cumulative process. So in that case, level two has more accumulation than level 1, and the 3 is more than 2, things like that. That's my guessing,
Okay, that
right?
makes sense. Okay, given that, how does that relate to that?
Going circles, spirals up. That's my
Good. Maybe
cognitive model.
that's why I'm asking.
Yeah.
it's like the energy jump from 1 to 1. When it
Energy jump. Okay.
energy jump.
It's like a quantum jump.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, okay, but let's look at, say, mirroring. Mirroring seems to be related to level 3, Explorer. Integrity seems to be related to Constructor. So there's an overlap between these two, and I'm partial, at least a partial overlap.
Perhaps the difference is between a cognitive type and cognitive action?
Okay.
How to say? It's like such an integrity is the element of all levels. It's like if the system internal is not logical coherence, it will collapse between mirroring, between reflection. So
Right.
integrity is always the need.
Okay, but if we look at this, integrity seems to only start to be a problem or an issue from level 4, whereas the level 1, 2, and 3, they have no clue about integrity.
The integrity is the feature of system. Uh, 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 Whenever it is level 1 or level 7.
Okay, so that in other words, when you reach level 6 and level 7, then you start thinking in terms of that. So yeah, again, I can see overlap, but they seem to be partially dependent, partially independent, and how, huh?
It's like
Uh,
an age's dissertation defense. And
They're not, are they
Lorin
independent
is doing the
vectors or
question.
codependent vectors or what?
mm, well, we say, when it is when someone is level 1, it also have integrity, but it is small or less integrity when it is easy to craft. When it is developed to level 2, it is he will much robustness. It is not so easy to craft, but it is in his internal viewport. He is also integrity. It will so when someone mirroring another, it is a chance to collapse. It depends on the integrity in degree.
As if, okay, it seems like you're saying they're parallel ladders, that as you climb this ladder of levels, that the other ones become more robust.
Uh, yes, you can see that.
Yeah, I think Neji has a tendency to explore the issue of stability. So that is also partly why he eliminated a certain part of the ethics, because the same level of stability can happen in different ethical systems as well. That's my interpretation.
Okay. Anyway, I just wanted to get back to what I thought was my job to interpret this model. So,
Oh, Lorin, I think you did an excellent job. I really enjoyed the quality of the presentation. I intend to spend some time studying the relationships between the two because I think they are different worlds that are being explored, but I really enjoyed it.
Exactly. After all, they're different brains. Lorin spring versus native spring. There are two, they are two separate entities.
that's it.
Okay. Okay. So we almost approached our 2-hour mark of time. I think it's a very good class today. So we expect Jerry next talk and Robert's next talk. And you can still continue exchange points through the email, right?
I will try and recruit Ram to do something with this Caltech.
Yeah. Okay. Whenever you will do next one, I will make sure he's available.
Okay.
Sometimes he travels. Okay.
I have
So
a
class
question
is
for
over today.
Jason.
Yes.
Do you think that it is better that I should do, or I should do a series? You mentioned like a course, and I'm not going to give a course, but
Yeah, we do have.
let me pose the question. Let me pose the question. A series of shorter talks that build upon each other rather than one longer talk.
It all depends on how our other members respond to your call for participation. So why don't you write uh, the long one first? Because, for example, we had Jerry doing a one-on-one. We also had Peter
Yes,
Karani
I found a couple of Jerry's
did
long
a
ones on
one-on-one.
YouTube. Yeah.
So if you define your topic as a mini one-on-one course, which you will do presentation like 1 hour and leave the second hour to discussion, then that is just your solo performance of that session.
Jason, let me ask you this. Would it be the document that you're requesting that I create and send to you? Would it be sufficient if I sent you instead the publications on the basis of which I would make my presentations?
Uh, it's better to be a shorter format because Club of Remy is pretty loosely connected people who are interested in sometimes in the same topic. So the key is make your topic and abstract as attractive as possible to attract at least some audience. Then we can schedule for everyone is available on that Wednesday. Then you can try it. Shorter
Jason,
ones,
if
a series is
in order
normally
to
based on a book.
in
Chapter.
in order to construct such an abstract, I need to ask you a question because the abstract will depend upon the length of the presentation. If 10 minutes is too short for me, and an hour might be too long for everyone else, I solicit your input as to what.
You see, we usually have this standard format of 20 minutes each person and 3 persons per session. So 20 minutes, normally you cover about 7 slides. And if every slide you have
I
7
can't
points,
do
you
it.
have 49 points
No, I can't do it.
space.
I mean, I'm not making a special request, but I saw presentations of Jerry's that are an hour long, and they're very intensive and very thought-provoking. I'm not saying that I'm going to be as profound as he is, but I could easily do well over half an hour, because that's the nature of the material. That's the nature of the material. Can't do it in 10 minutes.
Okay, half an
Can't
hour
do
is
it in
fine.
20 minutes.
We just need another people to join
I mean,
you.
I tried to do it a few years ago in 15. I have one version of the presentation, okay, that I tried
Okay.
to do in 20 minutes, and it just wasn't enough. It just wasn't enough, because like I say, there's foundational elements, there's the creation of an applied theory, and there's the application of the theory, and there are categories of complex systems that have particular definitions and they're related in particular ways. Well, actually, no, they don't have particular definitions. They have very any, evident to people who know complex systems. They are evident, but they are constructed in a certain way that they problematize in a certain way, and then the problematization gets applied and put over a problem, and then the problem resolves itself by the way that it's presented, and conclusions follow from it. That's not 20 minutes. That's not even 30 minutes, you know?
Robert,
I feel your pain.
Thank you. Thank
Robert,
you.
I also hear your
And Jerry, each of you get
gonna have
half
I
an hour.
want to let Jerry finish.
Oh, I think, Robert, you're going to have to make some tough internal decisions, whether you want to do 10 or 20 minutes or you want to do an hour, one or the other. And you seem to want to dance around.
Well, I was asking whether like 30 or 45 minutes would be a good compromise or not. Might not be,
Okay.
but that's the question I'm asking.
We are an intellectual bar. You can drink as much as you like.
I mean, it's
We
clear
just need to
that
coordinate the
it's
time.
clear that if I do more than 20 minutes, then I can't. Then the panel doesn't work. 3 times 20. I mean, 20 minutes is. Forgive me, Jason, but 20 minutes is barely enough time. Barely enough time to say this is what I'm going to do, and then do it, and then say this is what I did. That's like you need one headline for that. You can't put together a theoretical apparatus and apply it in.
Yes, I'm sympathetic to that.
I mean, I could throw a bunch of PowerPoints up there, but they wouldn't mean anything because they're too intricate.
Most of the conferences give 20 minutes per paper, and you actually only have 15 minutes because you need to give the audience 5 minutes.
That's one reason I don't go to conferences, I guess. I'd rather write papers.
Okay, you got whatever you want, and because each session will have 2 hours total. So if
Jerry.
you and Jerry each occupy 20 minutes, 30 or 35 minutes, that's fine. And we just give the rest of the time for participants discussion.
I think that's a great idea because it would give me a chance to get back in deeper touch with Jerry. In fact, Jerry, I think that we should have a chat outside of this session to catch up with each other and to ask you about the call for papers, Yeah.
Let's Zoom.
You two decide the date. How about that? Jerry and Robert, you email each other and tell me, Jason, we want to do this on which date? Then I will post the announcement. How about that?
Jerry's responsible for my first publication in this theoretical démarche, so he would be an ideal person to for me to consult with, because he's also done presentations here. What?
I'm not responsible for your work, Robert. I'm not responsible.
That's me neither.
But I'm thanking you for the opportunities, Jerry. That's all. Look, let's do email.
Okay.
Let's do email and get back in touch. Okay?
Yes. And send me the final decision. Class is dismissed today.
Bye-bye.
You can leave now.